Amina's Voice by Hena, Chapter 21. Police cars line the driveway to the Islamic Center, making everything I've heard suddenly very real and even more terrifying. I'm certain that Mustafa, who's on the other side of me in the back seat of our minivan, can hear my heart beating through my thick jacket. Fayajan has been clicking his prayer beads the whole ride. There's Salim, Mama points toward the main entrance of the community hall. She parks the car in the nearly empty lot, and we all pile out and cut through the grass, still dewy in the frigid morning air, to where Baba stands on the steps. He's typing into his phone and looks up in surprise as he sees us approaching. Without saying a word, he pulls Mustafa and me into a tight embrace for what seems like a long time before letting us go. When he speaks, his face is full of sadness. It's devastating. We poured so many years of our lives into building this place. I painted those walls for the first time with my own hands, and now it's been. His voice cracks, and he stops. I swallow hard. I can't remember ever seeing my father this upset. Baba seems to become aware of me and tries to smile in my direction. Don't worry, Gita. Everything will be okay. Baba rubs my back. You should have left the kids at home, he adds quietly to Mama. This is no place for them to be right now. You're right. Mama's eyes are glassy. I just wanted to keep them close to me. Mustafa, can you please take your sister and wait in the car? Mustafa takes the keys without a word, and I follow him back to the car, while our parents look for Imam Malik and Hamid uncle in the mosque. We sit in the front seats, the dark leather already cold through my jeans, even though the car has only been off for a few minutes. Mustafa puts the key in the ignition and turns on the heat and the stereo. I can feel the warm air blowing, but it doesn't seem to make a difference as my teeth chatter from something other than the cold. Plus, the upbeat pop song playing through the speakers seems oddly disrespectful. Mustafa switches it off, and we wait without saying a word. My mind floods with a million questions about what is going on. But I know Mustafa doesn't have the answers, and the look on his face warns me to stay quiet. As the minutes creep by and our parents aren't in sight, Mustafa starts to fidget. He checks his hair in the rearview mirror, examines the start of a pimple on his chin, puts his hood up, and slouches in the seat, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. I can't sit here any longer. I'm going to check out what happened, he finally says. You coming? Mama said to wait here. Well, you can wait if you want. And with that, Mustafa jumps out of the car. I scramble to follow him, my heart pounding again with a mix of fear and nervousness. Together, we run across the wet grass and up the steps to the community building. Mustafa pulls open the carved green door of the community hall. I take a deep breath, like I'm about to go underwater, and slowly enter the foyer. It's small. Its small sofa, side table filled with pamphlets and flyers, and a few chairs look pretty much the same as always. Maybe things won't be as bad as I imagined. But then, as we continue into the main hall, I gasp. It's unrecognizable, as if a tornado swept through, picked up furniture, and threw it against the walls. Tables and chairs are turned upside down, the floor is littered with cracked frames. I recognize them as the calligraphy that a local Moroccan painter recently donated. Two wood display cases are knocked onto their sides, and all the treasures from around the Muslim world are broken and scattered. The microphone and podium on the stage, where I heard a presentation by a children's book illustrator a few weeks earlier, are destroyed. Something in my chest breaks into pieces as I survey the room. Worst of all are the walls, once creamy white, now covered with black spray paint. My eyes scan the hateful phrases written in thick, crooked lines, sloppy writing that screams, "Go home, terrorists, towelheads," and bad words so terrible that I squeeze my eyelids shut. The writing cuts deep, as the fear of whoever could do something like this grips me. I reach for Mustafa, feeling dizzy, and realize that I'm holding my breath. Are you okay? He whispers. You look like you're going to puke. I nod, but hold Mustafa's hand tightly as we walk down the hall past the bathrooms. As we pass the little library, one of my favorite parts of the Islamic Center, I see that the books have been knocked off the shelves and that many are in shreds. I peek in horror, unable to bear the thought of anyone mishandling the Holy Quran, tearing out the pages and apparently stomping on them. Mustafa mutters under his breath, and his eyes seem darker than usual as he scans the room. Let's get out of here, he says. I can't see anymore. As we step outside into the cool air, we both take deep breaths. Who would do this? I finally ask when I can. I wish I knew. Mustafa's voice is thick with anger. He bites his lip. I thought we asked you to stay in the car. Baba sounds reproachful as he hurries towards us from the side of the building. You were taking so long we got worried, Mustafa says. I can tell he's trying his best not to cry. Did you go inside? Yeah, Mustafa mutters. Do the cops know who did this? I wish you had listened to us, Baba says. It's cold out here, but come wait with us for a few more minutes. I don't want you to go into the mosque building. Do you hear me? It's wet and smoky and a mess in there. And the police are still collecting evidence. We nod. The last thing either of us wants is to go into the mosque and see more destruction. We follow Baba to where Mama and Thayajan are talking to Hamid uncle and a couple of other people who have arrived. Imam Malik is standing aside to speak to a police officer and a reporter. A van labeled Channel 7 News arrived while they were inside. I spot blue checker pajamas under Imam Malik's brown leather jacket and figure that he rushed out of his house as soon as he heard what had happened. I would have laughed with Mustafa about that if this weren't all so terrible. Let's go, Mama says wearily as she sees us. She seems distracted and says to no one in particular, I just can't believe that this happened. I don't want to believe it either. All I want is to crawl back into bed and wake up again to find out that all of it was just a bad dream. Hamid uncle clears his throat loudly and doesn't acknowledge us, which is very out of character. It's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars in repairs between both buildings. He pushes his glasses up his nose. Maybe even more if they found out there was structural damage. But it could have been so much worse, Sama Auntie says. If that person in a passing car hadn't noticed the smoke and called the fire department, and if they hadn't come so quickly, the entire building could have burned to the ground. I know, Mama says. We'll have to try to be grateful, but it's hard. This just feels so violating and terrifying. I thought that we were part of this community, and now to think that someone wanted to... Mama looks down at me and stops talking. Imam Malik shakes hands with the reporter and walks over to us. Tons of other cars are pulling into the parking lot now, and I want to tell them to turn around and go home and not go inside the Islamic Center. Assalamu alaikum, Imam Malik's usually smiling face is drooping. What a nightmare. What are the police saying, Mama asks. Do they know who did this? The police are opening a full investigation, but it's going to take time before we get any answers. What if they come back, I ask. Imam Malik pats me on the shoulder. Don't worry. The people who did this are shameless cowards. They don't dare to come back. And even if they try, we are working with the police to set up additional security. We have to catch them. Whoever did this can't just get away with it. Mustafa speaks to the ground and acts like something is in his eyes. They need to pay for what they did. I'm angry too, but let's be patient. We'll see what happens, Imam says as he gently puts his arm around Mustafa. Leave it in the hands of God and the police who are working hard. Any idea how long before we can reopen? Realistically, Mama asks. It's going to be many weeks, if not months, and Mom shakes his head sadly. We're going to have to let all the groups we invited to our events know that they won't be happening anymore, Mama adds. The Quran competition. For weeks I've been dreading it, but now that it's being snatched away, I'm surprised by how badly I want it back. I think about how excited all my friends have been about the cotton candy at the dunk tank and how hard everyone has been working to prepare. And I suddenly feel cheated and angry. Yes, if you could please notify everyone, it'd be helpful, and one less thing for me to manage right now. Imam Malik shifts his weight as if the burden resting on him is too much to carry. Now, I'm sorry, I have to go speak with the others who have arrived. He puts his hand over his chest and then rushes off. We wait while our parents finish their conversations. It's only when my stomach starts growling fiercely that I remember we haven't eaten anything all morning. Finally, we head back to the car, and as we walk, I catch up to Mustafa and tug on his arm. What, he says without stopping. I was praying that I didn't have to be in the Quran competition, I whisper. I don't want anyone else to hear me. And and look what happened. I wave my hand around, pointing towards the buildings. What? Mustafa snorts. Don't be ridiculous. It doesn't work like that. This has nothing to do with you. I stand in place, blinking rapidly. Listen. Mustafa's voice is softer and he stops walking. Did you spray paint those walls or set that fire? I shake my head. Then it's not your fault, okay? Some really evil people did that. Do you think they'll catch them? I hope so, Mustafa scowls. It's just so freaking unfair. What kind of person would want to destroy a place where people gather to pray and learn? I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about who they were and why they were smashing things or spraying the walls. Instead, I just pray for things to go back to the way they were before, back to before this horrible night, back to before I wished my way out of the competition, back to before I heard Thea John say what he did about music, and back to before I messed everything up with Sujin and Emily. The heaviness that has settled around my heart is getting to the point where it is slowly being crushed. I'm afraid I'll never feel normal again.